Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're diving into yet another chapter of the car I absolutely love to hate. That's right, my son's Fiat 500, and guess what? It's failed its MOT on the dot again. Today we're going to be tackling the front shocks. First thing we need to do is jack the car up. Now to remove the wheel bolts, I'm using my impact gun. You can use whatever you've got. If you've got a breaker bar or a ratchet, you can use that to get these off. Let's get this wheel moved out of the way and give us plenty of space to work. Now a quick check of the brake pads, which we fitted last year, and there's plenty of meat on them still. Next, we need to remove the pinch bolts that are holding the strut in place. There's two of these, and you'll need a 17 and a 15 in order to get them off, either a socket or spanner. Just make sure to move the brake lines and any cables out of the way. Now repeat with the top pinch bolt, but we're going to leave that one in situ just to hold the strut for now. Now we need to head back up top and deal with the top mount. In an ideal world, a 19mm swan neck spanner and a T30 will get this straight off, but given the fact it's a Fiat and it's rusted to hell, then I think we're going to have to put the 19mm socket and impact on it and buzz this off. Now we can head back down, deal with the pinch bolt and the drop link. Support the hub with one hand and remove the pinch bolt with the other. Now this should give you some flex then to be able to manipulate the strut around and remove the drop link. Now if you're unlucky and the nut just spins, then pop a set of more grips on the back just to hold it in place while you buzz that nut off. So back up top, we can finally release that top nut and let the shock out. It should be completely free. So now we've got a good look at the shock itself. You can see there's loads of fluid all over it. Obviously that's no good. So we can get the spring stripped off and the top mount and get it transferred over onto the new shock. So here I'm using a pair of spring compressors to take the tension off the spring. You'll know once it's tight enough because the top mount will spin quite comfortably on its own. Now you might have to play around with the orientation of the spring compressors due to the shock body, so sometimes it's worth just looking to see and maybe putting it upside down so you've got a clearer access to the actual tightening nut itself. On this occasion, yeah, up the other way. And when you tighten these up, try and do it evenly each side so that the spring doesn't get too lopsided. Now just remember, you are working with a live spring here. These are highly tensile, and if they let go, they get let go in a big fashion. So you don't want to get injured or damage somebody's property. So just try and point it away from anything that's gonna damage if it does go, and keep your hands away from that spring at all times. Right, now we need to remove the top mount retaining nut. In this case, it's a 27mm socket. So we're just going to pop that on and try and back that off. Now, you'll have to spray it with some WD, I guarantee. You'll have to keep going in and out, work it out. It'll come out a little bit further each time before it jams up. Wind it back in a little bit, bring it back out again. It's just really playing with this to get it off. Because obviously you'll get to a point where, just hold this top mount as well, stop it spinning. But you'll get to a point where the shock body starts to rotate with it. So at that point, just tighten it back in. So give it a bit of lube, tighten it back out. Now the retaining nut's off, this spring really is a loaded weapon, so again, treat it with care. I can't reinforce that point enough. But now we can start to strip the top mount out, the dust cover, and remove the shock body from the spring. Now I'm not actually moving the spring, as you see, I'm leaving the spring in situ and just pulling everything away from it. Now here we're unpacking our shiny new shock body from Automotive in the Netherlands. Obviously they take a little bit of time to deliver, but they are quite a bit cheaper. I think I've got 48% discount on this one. It's about 30 quid. They're by far the cheapest. It's great if you can plan ahead and you know when you need your parts. But yeah, if you're waiting on, a bit of a nightmare. But we'll just get these side by side and compare them, make sure they are indeed the same part and orientation, and we'll get it fitted. Now you notice that the new one's a lot shorter than the old one. That's because it's compressed for transport. It's got a little retaining clip on it, so we'll release that in a second, and it'll be exactly the same size as the old one. So if we just pop this clip off, we'll just compress the shock down, take the clip off, we'll remove that in a minute. If we let this out, a sign of a good shock is that it comes out slowly, and that is exactly what this one's doing. Pop them side by side, you can see the orientation, all the bracketry, everything's the same. Obviously if it was the wrong side, it would be the polar opposite. Now if we remove the top nut, we'll put that safe, we'll leave that in a minute. Now we need to just slide the dust cover and the top mount over the shock. Again, being careful of that spring. There we go. And then we're going to use the 27mm retaining nut off the existing shock and tighten that down as tight as we can while the spring is compressed. Now once the retaining nut's back in place, we can now release the pressure off the spring compressors and let that spring sit back as it should do. Now just very quickly check the top of the spring and it's seated into the cup, and the bottom of the spring, again, it should be retained within the shock body around the bottom here. Nice and straight, not off to the side. You know that spring's as it should be. Now we've just reinstalled the shock body and I'm just putting the retaining captive nut on the top there just to hold it while we go back down underneath and get everything refitted. So first things first, we're going to move the wires and everything out of the way to give us access. Just tuck these over the top out of the way so we don't catch them. And then we're going to lift the hub and try and put the first retaining bolt in. Pinch bolt. So you might have to use one hand to lift the hub, one hand to put the bolt in. Bit of a pig, but it will line up. I'm just going to pop this nut on and then we're going to repeat the process for the top pinch bolt. If we use a 17mm spanner and a 15mm socket, we can tighten that up to factory torque specs, which I don't know what they are. It's just as tight as I can get it. I want to reclip the brake line and the ABS sensor wire. Then we need to go back up and tighten the top mount bolt. We'll need to recheck this for tightness once the weight's back on the wheels of the car. Then we're going to stick the jack underneath the hub and jack it up a bit so we can get the drop link bolt through the hole. And then put the retaining nut on after that. And 9 times out of 10 with these drop links, you can just buzz them straight on. This is a 15mm, so we just tighten this up as tight as we can. If it doesn't tighten, again, put the more grips on the back of the drop link to stop it spinning. So put the wheel back on and drop the car back down to the ground. And then what we're going to do is double check this top nut and put a breaker bar on it and see if we can turn it any. No, that's plenty tight. Guys, if you found that helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and catch you on the next one.